Hey guys, it's Penelope in London, and I'm looking at the chart. We've got an upcoming full moon, but there's other stuff going on at the moment which is pretty major and not scary, just us living on Earth. And the planets are really a reflection of what we're feeling. When we look at our own chart and then we look at the collective, we can see the connection that ultimately, whatever we're feeling, if we look at Mercury, for instance, if I get my pointer here, you can see this is a chart of the full moon that's going to happen on the 17th of January, 2022, January 17th, 2022. You can see here that you've got the same degree. We've got Mercury that's going to be retrograde. This is, today we're at the 15th, 16th, depending on where you are. So we've got the sun 27 and the moon 27, and this will be our full moon. You can see here, that Pluto is conjunct the sun. We've also got Venus retrograde. So I'm going to run through that, and also the Mercury. We've also got the Uranus that's going to be going direct. So there's a lot going on here. Uranus will be going direct, but I'll jump over to solar fire in a minute, but I'm going to just describe a few of these happenings that are going on. So if we look at the sun conjunct Pluto at the moment, what does that mean? Because it is in a strong conjunction. When you look at Pluto, you can see it's 26 degrees, and we can also see that the sun will also be on top, and currently they are, very close. They're like on top of each other today, right now. So we know that the sun is our vitality, and that Pluto is where we have transformation and where we transmute. It can be very difficult. We can have the rug pulled, or we can go in alignment with it. In evolutionary astrology, we would say, where we're working towards and moving with it, or we're resisting. So in resistance, then things are going to be difficult when we resist. And when we've got this conjunction, there's a light shining. It's about renewal and it's about healing. So clearly, collectively, we do need some deep healing at the moment. I've seen a lot of people have a tricky day today. This is the 15th, coming up to the 16th in the UK. And we know that, I've had a lot of people that I've dealt with today that have had some power struggles today. So it's potent, that sun conjunct Pluto. It only happens once a year, and it's about empowerment. So we can have power struggles with personal empowerment as well. And it depends how we choose to channel our energy. So when we look at the planets and aspects, we can imagine like we have free will. So if I want to cross the road, I can choose how I'm going to cross that road to a degree. We can't control everything, but we do have a certain amount of modicum, of free will, where we can choose the way we're going to do something. And that will depend on our own level of consciousness, our understanding, and the inner work that we've done. We don't have to go into fight, flight, freeze over everything and react. We can learn to communicate in new ways. So it's deep work. The Pluto is what's unconscious in us, as Jung would say. It's the unconscious and the subconscious and unconscious. With Mercury went retrograde, and I will actually go over to the other chart, but let's see for that moon. Before I do that, we've got the moon will be in a trine to the south node, and the south node that day is going to be, if we look here, the node is in its last little bit of Gemini, and then it's going to move into Taurus. So we've also got the shift of the nodes. The node has been in Gemini for the last year and a half, which has been to do with our communication. And the south node has been in Sagittarius. The nodes go this way around the chart. So it's going to move into Taurus. I'm Taurus north node at 25 degrees. So this is a return for me. I'm having a nodal return. And you can see that will then be in there for a year and a half. So this will be to do with our resources. It will be to do with our needs. And it's to do also with the land. It's to do with our inner needs. And we're moving away from, where we're holding on to things and, and also resentments as well. So collectively, we're in a new time. We've also got Uranus there, which is to do with resources. That's retrograde, and I'll show you that going forward. The Mercury, let's see before I change it. Let's see here. We've got Chiron in Aries, and it's there for many more years until 2026, I believe. And we know that Jupiter is now in the sign of Pisces, and so is Neptune. And we've got Mercury retrograde for the next 3 weeks from today. It's stationed yesterday. And with the Venus, that's going to go, that's going to be going direct on the 29th of January. So a lot going on here. The other interesting thing is Mars, when we went into lockdown 2020, Mars moved over Saturn, Pluto and Jupiter, maybe not in that order, but that's when things kicked off. So it's going to be very fascinating to see what occurs when that Mars in its new cycle gets up to Pluto and then goes into a new cycle. So let's go over to solar fire and hopefully make sure it's there. Okay, so what we have is, this is right now in the UK, and it's just up here, you see it's the 16th. So if you're in the USA right now, you're behind. You're either 8 hours behind, or you're 5 hours behind if you're in New York, if you're in California, and then you're ahead if you're in Australia. So it's different for everybody depending on where we are. So if we look, this is the 16th of January, and I can go back by days, or let's do hours. So if I go back, this is the 15th. So depending on where you are. So the moon right now is just moved into the sign of Cancer, actually. If we come back to the time now, the moon is now in the sign of Cancer, and that will be on the 17th, we're going to have that full moon. So when the full moon happens, it will be opposite the sun, and we've also got, you can see here, the sun is on top of Pluto currently. So with the Mercury retrograde, if we look at from evolutionary astrology, it's the nature, I'm going to read a bit from the evolutionary astrology school here, that the nature of Mercury is to externalize, yet the nature of retrograde is to internalize. So what we're doing is, when Mercury goes retrograde, normally Mercury is external, you know, we're dealing with each other and our communication, local travels and siblings, and then we'd look at the sign it's in also, but we'd also then look at the nature of retrograde is to be internal. So when we go internal for a few weeks, and we will feel, you know, that we're basically, the knowledge that we've collected, we're going over. It's personal purpose, information which is not needed. As we go over that, we'll go through our information, and information that's not needed, we will offload. It's like we're integrating information that's been going on. We're coming up with something new. And it's where the soul doesn't allow it. If you've got Mercury retrograde at birth, you know, the soul does not want unnecessary information. So if we think of all of the information we've been collecting over the previous months, you know, of what is true, what is the truth, and now we're getting to a place of being grounded in deciding, you know, what are we carrying forward with us. And then also Mercury retrograde, evolutionary speaking, are at the beginning of the process of relearning to rely upon and trusting their intuition as the source of information and knowledge that they are seeking. They may seek out external information sources, which generally we do, but those sources of information would only be relative to the Mercury retrograde soul own specific purpose and need. So really, this is what we're doing. We are going inward, and then we're looking at what is, you know, meaningful to us, because it's different for everybody, and it will be dependent on this Mercury, what house that's in for you. So if we look at Mercury, is currently on, you know, it's on top of Saturn, so we got restriction there. So if we look at that, and we look at what does Mercury is also square to Uranus at this moment as well. So if you look at Mercury up here, and it's squaring to Uranus. So this is breaking free of limitations. It's gone retrograde on that point. It's going to go back, and then it will go forward again. So it'll go into a square again. So Mercury in that strong square with Uranus, it's where, if we know that Mercury is the planet of communication and Uranus is about revolution. So with Mercury square, our mindset is, it's a jolt of insight. We're getting insights, and there is plenty to, you know, we might have visionary ideas, and it can be a bit erratic, and it's also where our ideas can be all over the place and run amok. And this is where we can have an inventive combination, and we can produce, you know, quality, genius type quality of thinking, but also we need to channel it properly. But remember, we're having a retrograde here, so then it will go direct, and then when it hits in again, we'll be more clear about our individual expression and the individually, our creative individuality. And otherwise it can be random and it can be eccentric as well. Also, we've got, what else have we got going on this chart? We've got the moon is trine to Jupiter at the moment. So the moon is trining to Jupiter. You can see this here. And the moon moves quite quickly, but the moon is our awareness and Jupiter is our emotions as well. And Jupiter is about expansion. So with a trine, we can feel feelings of joy and happiness can be magnified. And there can be, that we may feel that we want comfort and security. We can sort of get inflated about that. But with the Saturn there, as well on Mercury, we do know that, well, look at that, Saturn conjunct Mercury is where communication, again, Mercury, Saturn, restriction and structure. And with Mercury conjunct Saturn, the mind feels resistance to expressing new thoughts. So this is an interesting combination, isn't it? When we think that we've got breaking free of limitations, but it's gone retrograde. And then we've also got this where it could be a time where our mental energy feels stifled. So we could feel stifled and a little bit maybe stuck at the moment, but it's time where we can also concentrate our minds on some work or study, and we could have profound, ideas today as well. And, our duties may be quite dominating, like what we've got to get done. And we can see also that Venus retrograde. But again, if I go into the Mercury retrograde, which is quite important, I would say, on this chart, is that Aquarius is concerned with the universal hopes and dreams and of our group concerns and friendships, clubs and societies, and group consciousness. And each of us has responsibility to the group. So I think we can all agree with that we each have responsibility to each other. That even if we don't feel that we're in a group, that there are groups of us, like there are people at the moment that, we have different ideas, believe in things. Mercury is the planet of communication, as we know, and retrograde in Aquarius, what we're doing is with a Mercury retrograde, people get afraid of it, but it's nothing to be afraid of. I'm a Gemini sun and Gemini moon. And what I find is when it goes retrograde, it gives me like a time to catch up. And because I know it's going retrograde, I don't freak out if things, don't quite go to plan, like letters or whatever. I give myself the, understanding that, travel and such like may take longer, and I just allow myself more time. And I'm more, forgiving, or generally I am anyway, but I'm more forgiving of people over that period in expectancy of, communication. It's where we need to rewind and review, and we need to try and relax and integrate, and then we release. When it goes direct again, we release what needs to be released. And the ruler of Aquarius is currently in Taurus, so we know that the ruler, this is in Aquarius, the ruler is Uranus, and it's in Taurus, and Uranus takes 84 years around the chart, and Mercury takes 88 days. And Mercury does go retrograde 3 to 4 times a year, mainly 3 times, but on occasion we'll get a year where it does it 4 times. It's where we can have a buzz around Mercury retrograde, this idea that it's a disaster, but it's not. We need to sort of get rid of that old school type thinking. And we know that communication and travel, as I've said, can be more difficult. The connection here with the Mercury moving back into Capricorn, because that's what it's going to be doing. So if we look, that Mercury is actually going to go back into Capricorn, and it's going to hit Pluto again, which is fascinating because it's uncovering stuff. And also that Venus has been helping to uncover things as well, because a lot of things need to be uncovered, and we need to get to the truth and baseline of things at the moment. I've heard, a lot of news around gain of function. I actually looked up what that meant the other day, because often when we're looking at the news, and some countries are not getting the same news. Like, for instance, I've spoken to several people in the UK, and some people don't know who Fauci is an interesting thing. I just got the book, which is the the truth of Anthony Fauci, or along those lines. I can't remember the title of it, but I'm listening to it on Audible. Fascinating around pharmaceuticals. It's really worth educating ourselves and understanding things, because we can make a hell of a lot of assumptions based on what we think without actually knowing. So when we look here, that's going to go back into Capricorn, that Mercury. And we know that Capricorn is to do with, it's Saturn, and the ruler is Saturn. And Capricorn is to do with the government and our public face, our career, and it's the highest point in the chart. Capricorn is also ruled by Saturn, so it's lessons for all of us, yeah. And I think to me, it sort of spells that something's been missed and we're going over something, and maybe it's science being reviewed, because also we've got the Aquarian energy coming in here, and the Uranian energy. It's new ideas coming forth, and Uranus can also give us shocks as well, and it's past life, long-term memory trauma, so it can be connected to past life memory trauma. Mercury is also touching back in with Pluto, as I've said, at 26 degrees. So I feel that we will go in deep here, and there will be some transformation. I think that we will have hidden causes to our current collective problems showing up, hidden and understanding. And the truth does set us free, for better or worse. So we know with the truth, whatever appears to be the truth at some point, it sets us free. But it doesn't always particularly feel pleasant, when the truth always comes to us. It can be work either way. As humans, that short-term memory. So maybe a review is done which involves the betterment and inclusive of the hopes and dreams of the collective groups, maybe. Taurus defines and refines our inner needs and what we value. If we look at the connection in with the Taurus and the Uranian energy, and Taurus also defines our inner needs, but also it's the land, it's food, it's agriculture, and also when things do not work, we cannot remain blind to them. We've got to get to this point where we cannot, just remain blind to what is not working. We're at a point in humanity. I've heard about the Great Reset. I'm not that impressed with the idea myself. I don't understand it totally, but I've looked at some of the characters behind it, and I'm not 100%, okay with that idea. I think that there needs to be an involvement of people. I definitely wouldn't want to be chipped or anything like that as a human being. I don't want any, I'm trying to get Wi-Fi away from us based on, just having our laptops or whatever we've got at home, wired up, rather than using the Wi-Fi and turning off our mobile phones when we can. So, for our health and well-being, because all of these electrical things do affect our body. So look to your own chart where the retrograde is occurring. For me, it is happening in my second house, being the house of inner needs and values. And I'm quite pleased about that, because it's really teaching me. It's been hardcore, but that Venus in my second house, but my second house is Capricorn, is really teaching me to evolve and grow up. And I think what's happening for me as well is that Taurus North Node, it's a new cycle for me, because it's a nodal return, which happens every 18 years with the nodes. So, you have a nodal opposition, a nodal square, and this goes round and round and round. So, through our life, and we keep evolving and we keep learning. So it's a really beautiful chart. I'm going to do a different video for the moon. I've decided there was something on Venus, which Simon Forster, who's a brilliant astrologer, evolutionary astrology, who coached me for years. So I do suggest you check him out on YouTube too. But if we look at Venus in Capricorn, it's a need for structure, routine, authority, limits and boundaries, wisdom, parental viewpoints, rules, reflection on experience, acceptance of society, societal interests, emotional security, definition of boundaries, expectations, relating via expectations, stability in our school and home and routines, freedom to play or relax within the structure of routine. So we need that freedom. We haven't had a lot of play the last couple of years. And that's going, it is retrograde in the sign of Capricorn. And then defined roles, it's cause and effect, and seeing action results in natural consequences. So our actions do result in consequences. So I think we're seeing this playing out collectively. That will then touch in with with Pluto again. This is beautiful, this chart. It's not an easy chart, but it is beautiful. So watch this Uranian energy here, Uranus. Let's go forward by hours, because I know it's a few days. So I'm pushing this by hours, and you can see Uranus, it's there with the retrograde X on it. And there you go, station. This is the 17th. Look at that. It's going with the moon. Yeah, it's going boom, boom, boom. There. And it's going direct. It's been, there you go. That's the 18th. And then it stations. You see the S. So really the charts, and I sort of stay away from the big predictions. It gives you an idea. It's more what we're feeling. This is what Simon Forster taught me. Look at the chart. What are you feeling? What are you feeling? Go back to that. And then if you take the chart back, and you can look at defining points in your life. When I broke free of past childhood stuff, Uranus was on my ascendant, and I was 14 and a half, 15. I had a big standing up for myself. So and at the moment I've got my IC is 2033 of Pisces. So that Neptune is beautifully on my IC, trying to my natal Neptune. So, anyway, I hope you're all doing good out there. Leave any comments below, and I'll be back with more for the moon the full moon in a couple of days. Catch you later.